the trigger non-existent, but in its place a button on the lower part of the barrel which could be covered by an outstretched finger. "What does it do?" asked Buck practically. "I'm not sure, but it is important enough to have a special mention on the tape." Travis passed the weapon along to Buck and worked another loose from its holder. "No way of loading I can see," Buck said, examining the weapon with care and caution. "I don't think it fires a solid projectile," Travis replied. "We'll have to test them outside to find out just what we do have." The Apaches only took 3 of the weapons, closing the box before they left, and as they wiggled back through the cracked door, Travis was visited again by that odd flash of compelling, almost possessive power he had experienced when they had lain in ambush for the Red hunting party. He took a step or two forward until he was able to catch the edge of the reading table and steady himself against it. "What is the matter?" Both Buck and Jil-Lee were watching him. Apparently neither had felt that sensation. Travis did not reply for a second. He was free of it now, but he was sure of its source. It had not been any backlash of the red collar. It was rooted here. A compulsion triggered to make the original intentions of the outpost obeyed. A last drag from the sleepers. This place had been set up with a single purpose, to protect and preserve the ancient rulers of Topaz. And perhaps the very presence here of the intruding Terrans had released a force, started an unseen installation. Now Travis answered simply. They want out. Jil-Lee glanced back at the slit door, but Buck still watched Travis. "They call?" he asked. "In a way," Travis admitted, but the compulsions had already ebbed. He was free. "It is gone now." "This is not a good place," Buck observed somberly. "We touch that which should not be held by men of our earth." He held out the weapon. "Did not the people take up the rifles of the Pinda-lick-o-yi for their defense when it was necessary?" Jil-Lee demanded. "We do what we must." After seeing that, his chin indicated the slit and what lay behind it. "Do you wish the Reds to forage here?" "Still," Buck's words came slowly, "this is a choice between 2 evils, rather than between an evil and a good." "Then let us see how powerful this evil is." Jil-Lee headed for the corridor leading to the pillar. It was late afternoon when they made their way through the swirling mist of the valley under the archway giving on the former site of the outlaw Tatar camp. Travis sighted the long barrel of the weapon at a small bush backed by a boulder, and he pressed the firing button. There was no way of knowing whether the weapon was loaded except to try it. The result of his action was quick and terrifying. There was no sound, no sign of any projectile, ray gas, or whatever might have issued in answer to his finger movement. But the bush was no more. A black smear made a ragged outline of the extinguished branches and leaves on the rock which it stood behind. The earth might still enclose roots under a thin coating of ash, but the bush was gone. The breath of Nayanzani, powerful beyond belief. Buck broke their horrified silence first. In truth, evil is here. Jil-Lee raised his gun, if gun it could be called, aimed at the rock with the bush silhouette plain to be seen, and fired. This time they were able to witness disintegration in progress, the crumble of the stone as if its substance was no more than sand lapped by river water. A pile of blackened rubble remained, nothing more. "To use this on a living thing?" Buck protested, horror basing the doubt in his voice. "We do not use it against living things," Travis promised, "but against the ship of the Reds, to cut that to pieces. This will open the shell of the turtle and let us at its meat." Jil-Lee nodded. "Those are true words. But now I agree with your fears of this place, Travis. This is a devil thing and must not be allowed to fall into the hands of those who will use it more freely than we plan to," Buck wanted to know. "We reserve to ourselves that right because we hold our motives higher. To think that way is also a crooked trail. We will use this means because we must, but afterward that warehouse must be closed. The tapes giving the entrance clue destroyed." One part of Travis fought that decision, right though he knew it to be. The towers were the menace he had believed. And what was more discouraging than the risk they now ran was the belief that the treasure was a poison which could not be destroyed but which might spread from Topaz to Terra. Suppose the Western Conference had discovered that storehouse and explored its riches. Would they have been any less eager to exploit them? As Buck had pointed out, one's own ideals could well supply reasons for violence. In the past, Terra had been racked by wars of religion, one fanatically held opinion opposed to another. There was no righteousness in such struggles, only fatal ends. The Reds had no right to this new knowledge, but neither did they. It must be locked against the meddling of fools and zealots. Taboo. Buck spoke that word with an emphasis they could appreciate. Knowledge must be set behind the invisible barriers of taboo, and that could work. These three, no more. We found no other weapons. Jilly added a warning suggestion. "No others," Buck agreed, and Travis echoed, adding, "We found tombs of the space people, and these were left with them. Because of our great need, we borrowed them. But they must be returned to the dead or trouble will follow. And they may only be used against the fortress of the Reds by us, who first found them and have taken unto ourselves the wrath of disturbed spirits." Well thought. That is an answer to give the people. The towers are the tombs of dead ones. When we return these, they shall be taboo. We are agreed, Buck asked. "We are agreed." Buck tried his weapon on a sapling, saw it vanish into nothingness. None of the Apaches wanted to carry the strange guns against their bodies. The power made them objects of fear rather than arms to delight a warrior. And when they returned to their temporary camp, they laid all three on a blanket and covered them up. But they could not cover up the memories of what had happened to bush, rock, and tree. "If such are their small weapons," Buck observed that evening, "then what kind of things did they have to balance our heavy armament? Perhaps they were able to burn up worlds." "That may be what happened elsewhere," Travis replied. "We do not know what put an end to their empire. The capital planet we found on the first voyage had not been destroyed, but it had been evacuated in haste. One building had not even been stripped of its furnishings." He remembered the battle he had fought there, he and Ross Murdoch and the winged native, standing up to an attack of the ape things while the winged warrior had used his physical advantage to fly above and bomb the enemies with boxes snatched from the piles. And here they went to sleep in order to wait out some danger, time or disaster they did not believe would be permanent, Buck mused. Terrace thought he would flee from the eyes of the sleepers throughout his dreams at night. But on the contrary, he slept heavily, finding it hard to rouse when Jil-lee awakened him for his watch. But he was alert when he saw a four-footed shape flit out of the shadows, drink water from the stream, and shake itself vigorously in a spray of drops. "Naginta," he greeted the coyote. "Trouble?" He would have shouted that question, but he put a tight rein on his impatience and strove to communicate in the only method possible. No, what the coyote had come to report was not trouble, but the fact that the one he had been set to guard was headed back into the mountains, though others came with her, 4 others. Nalik'ideyu still watched their camp. Her mate had come for further orders. Travis squatted before the animal, cupped the coyote's jowls between his palms. Naginta suffered his touch with only